Welcome to Bay Rats and Buoys Season 2 with your host, Captain Gage.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Bay Rats and Buoys. I'm your host, Captain Gage. This is episode number 41 on the boat, Season 2, brought to you in part by Cito Huntington. Are you a member? Visit Cito.com to join today. And the Fisherman Magazine, my favorite magazine to get in the mail. And Clicks Fueling. Visit clicksfueling.com. What's up, guys? I'm sitting on the boat. It's sunny. The dark clouds just passed by. Me and Corey just got back from a charter. And it's Wednesday morning, and it's been super busy in our area. We've had all kinds of excitement. There's a lot of great things happening, guys. But in the meantime, since the Montauk Canyon Challenge, we haven't had a day off. Me and Corey have been super busy, and we're not complaining, guys. This is the time of the year. If you're going to get out there and catch fish, we're super blessed. But we're also blessed because the striped bass are still here. It's mid-July. It's after mid-July, and the bass don't know it. The water temperature ranges daily from, you'll see it at 76 degrees in certain areas. Today it was like 72.6 out there. We had a bottom fishing charter, so it's like you never know what you're going to get, and when you get out there, the birds are going to be working. Is it going to be in the morning? Is it going to be in the evening time? And that's what's so great about getting out there every day and seeing the differences to what Mother Nature throws at us as far as the tide, the moon, the wind direction, all that fun stuff. You know, it all comes into play. But last week, that special edition, episode 40 of Bay Rats and Buoys, the podcast, was epic. The Montauk Canyon Challenge was nothing short of a great time being out there at the Montauk Yacht Club and everybody that we met. It was absolutely awesome. We had a ton of fun, and we're very grateful to Chris Squeary and the crew. So you guys did a great job out there. To everybody that's on the staff there at MCC, you guys did an awesome job. And I'll keep you informed weekly as we move forward. I'll even check my phone to see if he shot me over the name of the tournament, because there's another tournament coming up in August, and I'll keep you abreast of all the information as it comes in. I will share it with you. Because, again, that's why me and Corey hosted the Bay Rats and Buoys' first annual Striped Bass Invitational this year, because we wanted to sign up for a whole bunch of tournaments and enter all the tournaments that we can. And there really weren't that many. So we were like, well, why don't we just host our own? And 20 boats showed up and made it epic. And we love each and every one of you guys that showed up and the sponsors that helped out to make that a great event for us this year. So we are having a weekly gathering that you've heard me mention, and it's tonight. It's Wednesday nights. If you want to come join us, we're meeting at Whale's Tail in Northport from 8 to 10, and we sit around the bar. We talk fishing stories and laugh and all that fun, good stuff. If you want to come join us, have a couple of drinks. You can even order some food while you're there if you like. I know I do, and because I love the food at Whale's Tail. It's epic, delicious. And Sasha does a great job. We got to head out to the Hamptons. You know, we were out there in Montauk at the Yacht Club. We were so busy, we actually thought we were going to get a chance to head over to Whale's Tail and visit. But, man, we were on the dock until 9 o'clock at the Montauk Canyon Challenge. The last boat was coming in, and we stuck around for the entire day. Not because we're troopers, just because what was going on was so awesome, and it was great to be a part of it. So that's why we did our podcast from the dock there. But I'm back on the boat. I'm back in Huntington. Back in the hometown, back out fishing every day. Sunday we had a great pair on the boat. We had a father and daughter duo from San Diego, California, and Greg and Megan. They were absolutely awesome. We had a ton of fun with them. And, you know, even today, the two brothers with Nick and Mike and their, you know, crazy uncle, you know, the ball busting that goes on, whether it be amongst family members or friends or just, you know, employees and work, you know, your coworkers. It's insane. It's no different anywhere. So, you know, we do it in the tow company. There's a ton of ball breaking. And, you know, me and Corey on the boat, there's a ton of ball breaking. And then you have guests on the boat that are ball breaking. And whether it's coming back at you or going back at them, it is just, I mean, we have a ton of fun. It's nothing but laughs on Sand City Charters. It really is. I mean, I'm not changing the name, but we really do have a good time on the boat. And I'll come up with a few terms for it for sure. You know, I'm good for that. So if you want to come join us tonight, Wednesday night, 8 to 10, come meet us, come hang out with us, have some drinks, order some food from the bar, and definitely have some laughs about what's going on fishing-wise and with your boat and all that fun, great stuff. So we'll be over at Whale's Tail in Northport. That's in the Britannia Yachting Center in Northport, which I cruised down into yesterday when I was just cruising on the commercial towboat. So if I'm not out charter, a lot of times I get off the boat from a charter and have to jump on the boat and go, do some tows and some fun stuff. So it's usually long days on the water. So a day like today where it's just a fishing charter and I'm done, I don't got to look at the phone. I don't got to worry about calls coming in and somebody needing help. I can shut the ringer off. I don't care who calls me. And, that's why it's easy for me to sit down and do this raw, unscripted podcast while sitting on the boat because I'm not, there's no calls coming in. Even though there's text messages coming in now, but it's different Facebook groups and stuff like that. So, and, big shout out to all the Facebook admins. You guys are awesome. You know who you are because you know who the awesome ones are. And I do share my podcast in a lot of groups, and a lot of you help promote it and share it, and it's just awesome. Some of the groups are great. Some of the groups are like, holy shit, how did this happen? How did these people get here? The keyboard warriors and some of the pictures people post and, holding up a little striped bass in the kitchen. They're from California. The regulations are different, but you get the warriors that right away, they know where they caught it and what. Yeah, stop. Lighten up. Stop being a keyboard warrior. Get out there, catch some fish. That's what it's about, Get those lines wet, whether it's with light tackle, fly rods. Just get out there and have some fun. We actually had a group on Sunday that showed up onto the boat, and, they showed up with some telephone poles and those long Walmart two-piece rods, and we were just like, whoa. Me and Corey looked at each other like, whoa, seriously? This was a first. And it was great. It was epic. It was a ton of fun. And, you always have that guy that's trying to work two rods and he catches nothing, and the girl in the back of the boat that's using our gear is catching 20 fish, and that's pretty much what happened. And, sometimes you just got to listen to the captain and the crew. They're going to steer you in the right direction. I was talking to one of the guys about this because I'm a firm believer in when you're trying to learn something and become good at something or start something new. And I'll use, snowboarding back in the day as an example. I was switching from skis to snowboard. And, as great as a skateboarder as I was as a kid, once you're on the board and doing it, it was a lot like that. So it was great, toes, heels, and, just, weight distribution. So when you start something new or you do anything, you really should I always recommended that you take lessons, especially if you're a new boater. You need to take boating lessons and hire a captain like myself that's going to teach you, close quarter maneuvering. And just before you even untie your boat, what are you supposed to do when you get down to the dock? What are the prerequisites, So in this case, you get on a boat to go fishing, maybe you should learn from the professionals that are on the boat that do this professionally and daily and, have advice and have tips for you to teach you instead of, some people show up and they got all the gear, they're know-it-alls, and I like to say they're stuck in their ways and they're not open-minded to learning new things. And for me, I'm like a sponge. I'm constantly learning. Like when Jacob said, do you want to go spear fishing? Because I saw the videos that he had. I was like, are you kidding me? I can't wait. So I was so excited when he invited me to go free diving and spear fishing with them for tog, at the end of the season. Now, I want to do it a lot more, and not just for tog. I want to get out and do more of that and keep, learning. But you got to be out with people that know how to do it so that you're learning the proper technique and learning the right way. So I'm just passing on some advice and information to some of the know-it-alls out there. And there are some, and it happens. And they're usually not the one doing the best when it comes to catching fish. But they know a lot, and it's always fun to have them in the group. So we did have some epic charters. I mean, it was last week. It was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, I did the towboat. And here we are Wednesday. And then tomorrow, it's nonstop. And we're very grateful. Not only are we grateful that we're busy, but we're grateful that, the fish are here and we're on them and we can find them and people catch fish and they have a ton of fun. That's what it's about. Fishing is about fun. Boating is about fun. The boat that hit the rocks in Stanford, that was not supposed to happen. It's called an accident for a reason. It's not supposed to happen, And again, it goes back to the training and captaining your boat and what you know and what you don't know and how you use your electronics. Have you ever covered your windshield with a drop cloth and driven your boat using just your electronics and trusted it, not being able to see? So, it's different when you go out there in fog and you can see a little bit, but have you ever put a drop cloth and covered your entire window and driven the boat and learned how to use your electronics? So there's a lot of ways to train people, and I'm not saying you should go put a drop cloth on your window. Don't do that, okay? Do not. All right, Ricky's laughing right now because he trains people he puts a drop cloth across the windshield, and we're going to go out there and we're going to use radar and electronics and charts and, navigate an area and learn how to do it and get good at it so that you're comfortable in situations like that. But, a situation like hitting the rocks, I saw somebody hit the rocks yesterday. I watched him do it. He just was on the phone. He veered out of the channel, and he put himself up on some rocks. I told him just drop the anchor and wait an hour. And in an hour, the tide came in and lifted him up, and he was gone. Instead of pulling him through, into other rocks and doing some damage, just wait for a little bit of water. Just drop the anchor. So it happens to a lot of people. Anybody that's on the South Shore, you guys know exactly what I mean by there's only two types of boaters on the South Shore, those that have run aground and those that are going to run aground. It is inevitable, So you have a small boat, stay behind a big boat. And when he runs aground, you stop because obviously he ran aground before you. So that's pretty much what happened yesterday. And, all that stuff is avoidable. And 99% of the time, I tell you, it's human error, that a human made an error. And yesterday he admitted it when, I was 50 feet away from him talking. I was still in the channel. And he clearly saw he was out of the channel and on some rocks and said, hey, I was on the phone. I wasn't paying attention. And that happens all too often. And to the gentleman or to the crew, you never want to hear of an injury. We don't want to hear about people getting hurt on the boat. Boating is supposed to be fun. It's supposed to be fun, just like, driving your car is just as dangerous. There's probably more cars on the road than there are boats in the water. So I think you have a greater chance of having a car accident. And they always say it happens within, 3 to 5 miles of your house. It's usually in your hometown in the close quarters. But here in the waterways that you boat all the time, it's always changing. Whether you have a super moon or you have a full moon or the tides rip it or it's windy and you're getting blown out of the channel. There's so many elements that come into play that it's, you can't compare it to driving a car. So we never want to hear of anybody getting hurt. So when you hear about an injury on the boat in Stanford, you feel for them and, you're not making fun of them for what they did. We all just want to look at it and say, okay, how can I avoid that? How can you avoid that? How can you learn from the mistake that was made and, keep your family and your friends safe when you're out on the boat? Because you talk to any of the guys that go offshore and safety is the number one precedence out there. 100%. Do you have a defibrillator on board? You're going 100 miles offshore. By the time you call for help and by the time help arrives, do you have a defibrillator for somebody in need? Because you got a lot of guys going out. Some of them have young crews. Some of them have older crews. Some of them have mid-aged crews. And everybody is susceptible to some sort of heat stroke or something that could happen, whether it be, related to the heart, to the heat, to anything. And, are you prepared for a scenario like that? And what do? Have you trained for it? Have you practiced it? Do you know what to do? Is there a sat phone on board? All these things. There's so much that comes into play in all the different boating activities that people do, whether you're just going out tubing, you have to have a spotter. There's just so much involved that, sometimes people just get on a boat and they go and they roll the dice. And is it worth it to roll the dice and go? So, putting gas bladders on the boat and taking all that extra fuel out with you. If you're taking diesel, it's not as flammable. You're taking, regular gas with you. Yeah. You gotta gas bomb on your boat. So there's so much that goes into it. How do you handle it and what do you do? So I think that's where people need to better themselves as they become more into boating. So if you're new to boating, you're worried about docking. You're coming back and you're afraid to dock the boat. You've never anchored the boat. Certain things that you've never done or you're not good at. And that's what's on your mind. You're thinking about that. So when something else happens, it's just pure panic mode. And, that's what you want to avoid. You want to avoid panic and know how to handle the situation and call the right, authorities during that time of, whatever it is that's going on that may have gone wrong, Like yesterday, somebody had to be rushed to the hospital off the water, or they were, in a marina, and the ambulances are driving on the streets are buzzing with sirens. The water has sirens going. There's, all kinds of different municipalities coming together, and you see this when you're on the water every day. You see these things, so I tell everybody, be prepared. Have that first aid kit, have that ice, have the things that you need, even having a tourniquet. I have a real serious tourniquet on the boat only because, one of my friends is in the trauma unit in Bellevue. So he gave me a really good tourniquet. And, you got to write down, what time you put it on. And there's all kinds of things, you need to know. So we're always trying to learn and be better out here. So that was the safety preach for episode 41, because you got to have some good content in there to, educate people and make people better at what they do. Now I'm going to make you better at fishing, all right? And maybe better at filming. And, man, speaking of filming, we're going to have some really good news moving into 2026. There's some big things in the works. Super exciting. And, a lot of people have different ways that they capture footage, whether it be Dave Brown that just won the GoPro for the best video submission in the Bay Rats and Buoys first annual Striped Bass Invitational. I happen to love my gooseneck clamp that I put on, they put the GoPro on. Now today, guys, I have an umbrella over both cameras, so there should be no heat exhaustion. And the umbrella is on a separate tripod, because the umbrella could risk moving the GoPros, It could blow away for all I know. 20-mile-an-hour gust comes through here. So anyway, this is the one that I actually love because I can clamp this onto a rod while somebody's reeling in a fish, and you get that whole rod bend, view, the whole bird, the view from the angler. You can clamp it onto a rail. You can clamp it onto the console, and there's so many places that it goes that it's easy to grab, even if you just want to hold it and put it out over the side of the boat to get some different angles and videotape, So Captain of the Kitchen, Tony, he was trying out a new one around the neck. I seem to think anytime I'm wearing it, there's just a lot more shake, a lot more movement. And for me, I'm all about just keeping it as still as you can. That is the best way to film it, and a lot less movement. And it's more enjoyable for an audience to watch when there's, not Tourette's happening and the video's doing this, or the, it's shaking. Like the magnet one that I have that goes on the shirt or on the sweatshirt. On a regular shirt like this, it's going to lean forward, and the GoPro is going to be down way more than you want it to be angled down, even if you try to angle it up, because the magnet is pulling on the shirt. If you're wearing a sweatshirt in the fall time, it works so much better, the magnet. So, I think I have all the different mounts. And I got to say, this is one of my favorite mounts for any of you guys out there that are using GoPros. And if you have something great that works, speaking of something great that works, I don't remember how many episodes ago I talked about how much we all hate GULP. Yet we still buy the packages of it, and we all have it on the boat. We just happen to be throwing, like right now there's spearing in the marina, and I threw the cast net this morning, and they were tiny, But while we were fishing, a bigger school of some bigger ones went by us while we were on a charter, and we threw the cast net and, filled up the bucket and, had a good variation of clam spearing and live spearing and, live bait and the GULP that we were using. And we all talk about it, right? That shit stinks. If you spill it in your car, you want to sue GULP. Like, your cap sucks, your container sucks, everything about it sucks. It's horrible. And then today, I found the solution. And it was thanks to Mike and Nick's crazy uncle. And they had one, too, in a mini, they had the mini Home Depot bucket. So let me see. I took a picture of it. Let me see if I can pull it up, because I'll read you the name, and I'll put it up on the screen here. And it's called the Bait Mule. And it works great. It's absolutely insane. And I don't mean to call Mike and Nick's uncle crazy. He was awesome. He was the best ball buster out of them all. He had the most experience at ball busting. So you got to give it to him. And he wasn't the crazy uncle. John was awesome. He was a ton of fun. He really was. Great guy. And he works in the city every day, and we were fishing out there. So I pointed out a few different things, what to look at when you're looking around, so you kind of have, know where you are. And then I said to him, I said, look, over there, that's, New Rochelle. That's, if you look a little to the left, you're going to see the place you hate. But if you look that way, you're going to see the city. And, we showed him, and he's cursing and screaming at the city, stay away from that. He's happy to be out on the boat. And who wouldn't be, But the GULP, that Bait Mule, the way that cap screws on there, you could swing this thing around and throw it to your buddies on the next boat over. And it could roll around in the bed of the truck. I don't even think it's going to come out. I'll have to try that in Corey's truck, not mine. And I'm not kidding. So you test things out in other people's cars and trucks and see if it, fails. If it fails, and you're like, all right, yeah, I'm not putting that in the back of my truck. But, it's also something I hate putting in the, back seat of the car or anywhere. I mean, that stuff just stinks if it leaks. And I brought it into the shop. If you remember, we were talking about it's cat piss. You go in to buy a jar of the stuff, and it's like, yo, can we get a jar of cat piss? Or the GULP juice. And he's like, yo, you mean cat piss? And, that's how it was introduced to me. So that's how I'm reintroducing it to you. And I got to say, GULP works. We all know it. GULP works. And whether you're using the bigger 6-inch mullet ones and you're going for big doormats, or you're just going for bigger fish with them, I get it. GULP definitely works. Anything scented works. And who was here? Who was bringing it to my attention? He just got back from Montauk, and he showed me the little jar. I will try to find a picture of it and put it on the screen for you guys. And they were using fluke bellies as bait, but they were putting this scented juice on the fluke bellies, and it was out fishing everybody. And I'll see if I can share that with you, because, I just want to help you guys out and make you better at fishing. That's the whole idea of meeting on a Wednesday night at 8 o'clock at, Whale's Tail. It's not to get drunk. We're going to tell fishing tales and what you're catching, what we're catching, how we're catching them. We all love being on our boats, guys. We all know it, We don't want to go have a raft up, because having a raft up, then you're swimming. We want to be out there fishing, and I get it. So maybe we should, all gather out there one more time. It doesn't have to be a tournament, It could just be a, we could have a town-to-town competition kind of thing. So that's going to be up in the air. Just created that. It's like, poof, let's throw that up there, And maybe we'll do something like that locally, just for fun, something, just to go out and have a good time. But the Bait Mule, I'm ordering 2 of them. The minute I get off the boat and this is done, there's 2 of them coming to my house, for sure. Unless I can find a shop in the area that has them. So if somebody's in the area that's got a Bait Mule, hit me up, let me know. If not, I'm coming. I'll stop by a couple of shops. There's a couple of places I got to stop by anyway. There's things me and Corey said we were going to go in that we saw, and we were going to purchase and use for different things that we're doing, because now it's like, it's cast net time of the year for us. So we go on some cast net trips and bait trips where, we really just hone in on going and getting different kind of bait. And there's so much bait out there. Oh, my God. The harbor right now, you see the splashes. There's bait everywhere. You could just drive down the harbor and you're going to catch bait. They're everywhere. We were sitting at the town dock the other day, and they were just blowing up all in the mooring field. So what do? We drive in. We throw the cast net. You had some peanuts, you had some medium size. You see all the different sizes now. So it's kind of cool. It really is. And I just kicked the camera so you can see a little GoPro shake there. That was real. That wasn't an earthquake. And we told you about the rig that we were using with the egg weight and the, 4-foot leader going down to the circle hook for the croakers or the spot or the live bunker or the chunking. If you guys want to catch bass right now and you get out there and you see a screen full of them, that's the way to do it. You're putting down the spot, you're putting down the bunker, or you're putting down a chunk, and you are getting hooked up. Oh, and by the way, we caught some bluefish. So in last week's episode, it was like I was talking to the fish gods. However, these were cocktail blues, but we were doubling up on them every pass. So we were getting 2 at a time. So we were definitely on a nice school of bluefish that we saw harassing some bait, and we knew they were there. But it was nice to hook into them and actually see, they were decent size. If you were a kid and caught this from the dock and it looks like a big snapper, you would have thought it was like a trophy snapper. It was like the biggest snapper you caught in your life. But they were nice sized cocktail blues, so that was nice to see. And, again, a few weeks back, we caught some 37-inch bluefish, and I haven't caught any since. And that's basically it, The striped bass is still here, 76-degree water temperature. Today it was 72.5. We're going out night chunking this week. Going to be an epic trip out there. So if you want to come join us and sit on the chunk at nighttime and wait for the reels to peel off and, peel drag, we love our setup. Our setup at nighttime is awesome. We'll even have time, waiting for the rods to bend. We'll fly the drone around and get some sick pictures because with the lights and the underwater lights and the different stuff that you got going on, it just looks so cool out there. You feel like you're in another country, I'll even look at the flight radar app that I have to see where the planes that are passing by, where they're coming from. Some are coming from Milan. Some just left Long Island, and they're going, to Orlando and going different places. It's just so cool to see while you're out there at nighttime. You get to really relax and enjoy the water and just keep an eye out for the tugs and the barges that are going by and, any of the nukes. And anybody knows what a nuke is, it is a vessel not under command. So you're going to want to watch out. That's the number one. They have the right-of-way. That's the number one boat that has the right-of-way out there. So attention sailors. Oh, yeah, that was a funny argument on Channel 16 the other day. And there was a sailing group out there obviously hosting some sort of regatta, some sort of race, and they made an announcement on Channel 16 saying, attention all power boaters, attention all power boaters. The minute they said that, you knew this was going to go into he did not just say that. And he did. Oh, boy. It got to the point where the Coast Guard even jumped on 16 and said to all you people, talking 16s for hailing in distress only. So cut it out. And it was pretty entertaining. And 16 can be entertaining at times. It really can. And, I'm on it all day long. It's part of work. You got to listen. You got to tune in. So there's 2 radios up there, and they're on multiple channels, scanning multiple channels. So when somebody talks on a certain channel, you're going to hear that channel pop up. I don't know if you guys do that too. I do it for work, and then we're out there on the charters. We're communicating back and forth with a bunch of our buddies, and a lot of times, we're really just shooting text messages to one another, even though we're 30, 40 feet away, just so other boats don't hear what we're talking about, because if we're talking about fishing, we like to keep it on the down low. But you definitely want to be in our group, which is why you want to stop by Whale's Tail 8 to 10 and stop by, have a drink, because that's how you meet the group and meet people. And we're changing the faces and the places weekly. We're going to bounce around. We got some great ideas and some great things happening. And I'm actually excited for Thursday night. I'm going to visit a buddy of mine at, just different places. And I'll share all that intel with you, but I'll tell most of the people in person that come out. I don't want to just start talking about and advertising stuff on the podcast. I got to, keep that to a minimum. Oh, that was the closest the umbrella came to blowing over. It just did a nice little lean. The wind kicked up, and you might have seen Corey sneak by in the background. He was going to get some of the rods out of the way, packing stuff up, getting ready for tomorrow. And, man, just an awesome time of the year. Summer is here. It's in full swing. It's nice and hot. The weather's beautiful right now. We got a cool breeze. It's 80 degrees. There's no heat wave this week. I think Friday it'll be a little warmer. I think we'll get back up to the 90s, high 80s. But where is everybody? How come everybody's not out there fishing? There are a lot of boats out there fishing today. But, this heat comes and everybody, they stay home. They get in the air conditioning. The real guys are out there catching fish. I just want to put that out there. The real fishermen are out there catching fish. And we know who they are because we see them every day. And those are the real guys. And the other guys, I get it. I understand. Work gets in the way. I'm just breaking your balls. And it's what we do. No different in the podcast. We're still going to break balls, even in the podcast, because I can break your balls. Problem is you can't break mine back, but you can do it in the comments if you want. So, feel free. I love a little ball breaking. No doubt about it. And never afraid to say, bring it on. Let's go. What do you got? And the joke telling on the boat's ridiculous. And the Yetis. You see the Yetis online. There's nothing you can do. That's like a, trend that's happening right now. So everybody gets on the boat and you hear the latest and greatest in the Yeti jokes. I'm just glad there's not a lot of fishing, And you got to be careful how you pick on certain boaters in certain areas. No doubt about it. But I tell you, nothing but a great time here on Bay Rats and Buoys, and the fans and the group of people that we've met through the tournament and the invitations that we get to go out and on other people's boats. It's epic. It really is. And I got to say over the past, I want to say it's 3 years. It's almost like the same amount of time that the floater spoon became a very popular item, that, tuna fishing really became a big deal, here on Long Island. Like, I know offshore fishing's been going on forever, and we're talking about the inshore bite where guys are going out 30 miles and getting on bluefin and catching big fish, and even closer to the beach, because I've told you about the blow-ups me and my son saw while we were out there, shark fishing and flying the drones and dropping bait and doing all that fun stuff. They come real close now, and there are so many guys that go out there on, center consoles with single engines now that get in on the fun of the tuna fish, that don't have to have, triple screws and, quad screw boats to get out there safely and do it. And I love it. I just love the whole tuna thing. I'm on the North Shore. There's no tuna here. Could they make a wrong turn and come this way? It would be awesome. And I'm not talking about the false albacore. That's not, that's false albacore. Those are albies. It was nice to see the albacore out at Montauk Yacht Club and actually see albacore. But we're just getting started with, the tuna itch and getting out there. And the invitations have been coming in, which is so cool. And those that invited know exactly who I'm talking about. And we appreciate it. And, days that we're so busy, we're like, we could be offshore right now and, catching some tuna. And those days will come, because moving forward into July, right now, this is when I was told by one of the tuna charters that this is the best time of the year. When July hits, this is his busiest season. It's on fire. It's insane. Now's the time to get them popping, jigging, trolling, any which way but loose. So we're excited to get out there and give it a shot. That's going to be in the next 2 weeks. That is going to happen. So me and Corey are really excited about that. And we'll keep you posted as it goes on. And, how we started and what we got to get started and what we used and how we did it. And show you, just like we do here with the bass. I only tell you, there's really not much that I have to show you. You all know what I'm talking about when I tell you that we used a floater spoon or we were live lining spot. You all know how to do these things. If you do need instructions on how to do that, maybe in one of our next charters, I will show you how we're hooking and doing. And because the hookup ratio is obviously really good. We're catching fish. And it's past mid-July. So we're pretty proud of that. And we can't wait for the Gator Blues to show up. So, episode 41 on the boat. In the sun, cameras didn't shut down, umbrella worked. It's only 80 degrees. I mean, the board is pretty hot. I can't lie, But I probably can't put a a umbrella over the board without covering me. So, but another great episode. Love being out here. Love Bay Rats and Buoys, where it's going, what we're working on, big things happening, even bigger things that I ever even expected for this to really spawn into. But when you create something, you know you're creating it for the greater good and to be bigger, not to stay at the platform that you begin on. You want to keep graduating and getting into bigger platforms and moving up and on, which it's doing at the pace it was expected to do it at. And now that we're 11 weeks away from our 1 year anniversary, which there will be a celebration for Bay Rats and Buoys, and you will be invited, and I hope you come. Just like I hope you get to take a Wednesday night and come join us over at Whale's Tail in Northport for a couple of drinks from 8 to 10. It's a perfect time to get there. The dinner crowd is shuffling out. It empties out, and, and it's just a great time to stand around the bar and tell fishing stories and tales, and we hope to see you there. And Sash was kind enough to let us host our captain's meeting there. So for the past couple of weeks, we've been stopping in there to show our support. And no better place than Whale's Tail inside a yachting center. Epic. Fantastic. Love it there. Great staff. Great everything. Great food. Great drinks. So come join us. We hope to see you there. Robbie Love, I'm coming to see you, baby. Can't wait. It's going to be tomorrow night. I'm excited. And to the rest of you guys out there, get those boats in the water. Get out there, catch some fish. To all the anglers out there, I wish you bent rods, tight lines, and I hope to see you out there on the water. Captain Gage, episode number 41, signing off. Over and out.